Hey everybody, welcome to episode 9 of the End Times Boardroom. This was an unplanned video. It's late. It's about to be July 20th. I haven't posted a video since last month. I didn't realize that the time had gotten away from me. I have been preparing for a test that I've been studying for months. I'll be taking it in less than 10 days. I'll have to, leave town to take it. And so please pray for me. But this is something that came on my spirit pretty hard today, and just felt like this is something that's relatable to those who are trying to walk with God and catch themselves maybe not doing everything they should be doing. And one of those things that came on my spirit was this few things in particular: busyness, distraction, and complacency. And those words don't sound good, and I'm going to try to frame them as quickly as I can. The busyness, especially here in the United States, I can't really speak on any other countries because I've only lived here, is, we're always on the go, always trying to get stuff done and meeting deadlines, getting errands done, chores, you're trying to prioritize your day. You want to get all this stuff done so you can have free time to goof off or whatever. And in the midst of all that, it's easy to not carve out time to spend with God. And this is something I've been guilty of, especially the last few weeks. Working during the day, studying sometimes during the day, studying at night, trying to exercise. And in the midst of all that, as much as I would love to say that I've just been praying every day the past month, I have not. And that is problematic. Now, I'm on a streak right now, a pretty hot streak on reading my Bible app every day, but at least for me personally, reading one verse a day is not really cutting it. I think I need more. And I'm not saying that if you're only reading one verse a day that you're not doing good. Everybody's at a different area of their or walk in their journey, or place in their walk. And this is something that's been bothersome, and distraction. So I today, I was dealing with an issue with the car. One of our cars, there was a business that had it looks like they might have damaged one of the parts, and so I had to go over there and basically show cause that, hey, one of your franchises damaged the part of my car. Can you please repair it? And talking to people on the phone, waiting in line, and thankfully, it worked out in my favor. God really came through on that, where I actually came out ahead, and I wasn't trying to get anything for free, but the gentleman felt so moved as to do that, and he's earned my business on that. And the complacency is more having to do with both of these other themes, I guess, that I've just mentioned. So busyness and distraction. It's easy to be caught up in your day to day, but if you're doing that and you're not talking to God, communing with God, you're not growing in your faith, and you're becoming complacent. And that was something that was weighing heavy on me. And I, realized that I had done a few things in particular that normally I probably wouldn't do. But, for example, I caught myself listening to some secular music, nothing crazy like just cussing everywhere or anything like that, but it's stuff that I probably shouldn't have listened to. And I felt convicted about it. And I've asked for forgiveness. And that's something that, um, I'm like, I knew better and I did it. Just it's things like that. And when you start dealing with compromise in certain areas like that, even as small as it seems, it's one of those things where in one area, if you start letting up, you'd be amazed about how quickly you can get comfortable and say, oh, whatever. And it kind of leads to, it just keeps going and going. And one thing that I remember hearing in a sermon, and I'm sure maybe some of you guys have heard it too, but pastor was talking about if you boiled or you put a frog in boiling water, it's going to jump right out because it's going to know. But if you warm up the water gradually, it's not going to move. And until eventually, bad things happen. I know it's a messed up analogy. I don't know why they were talking about it. I've never personally boiled a frog or done anything like that, so don't come for me. But there's something to be said about that as far as, being, you start letting certain things go, start getting lackluster on certain things, and pretty soon, you're like, hey, how did I get here? And that was something that I kind of felt like today. It's like, hey, what are you doing? Why are you listening to that? And I was like, why am I listening to this? And it wasn't this gangster rap music. This is, more like pop music, but it's stuff like, this is what it represents or talks about. And I said, what am I doing? And I started thinking, like, what have I been doing? I read one Bible verse a day when I wake up. Okay. Did I spend time with God? Did I pray for 5, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, or whatever I was felt led to pray? No, not all the time. And it's like, well, what fruits have I yielded lately? Well, I mean, not as much as I would have liked. I've been lucky enough to be able to help some people here and there, but it's it just did my spirit. It was just like, I've gotten these blessings and God has answered my prayers. And I felt like I was almost ungrateful. It's like he's been answering my prayers and I haven't been giving him my all in my day to day. And that's something that as a believer, you're going to go through. You're going to go through your highs and lows and your middles and whatnot. And I guess right now, the last few weeks it's been more of the middle of the road. And the gentleman who I talked to, he's a Christian life coach guy, and he's with Record Breaker. His name is Christopher Ferguson. This guy's a very, very gifted man of God, and he told me, he was the one that had told me, to start talking to people, practical, talking to people on a person-to-person basis. I'm not coming at you with this crazy theology or this profound thing. It's just more like, hey, I'm your average guy talking to you about Jesus, and that's it. And, giving you the meat and potatoes of the Christian experience, like a typical Christian experience for somebody that, is just trying to make it in the day to day in this crazy world we live in. And he was like, have you talked to any groups, or, brought people on, what have you done to really try to push this forward? And it's not pushing it forward for my sake, but it's more of just like, if I don't do my part and talk about these things, if I was assigned to just reach one person, but I don't do what I'm supposed to do, then what am I doing? And so these were things that I noticed, and it was like, oh, I'll get to it. And I'm going to tell you, as somebody that, that it's all, like seemingly always on the go, tomorrow never really comes. It's like you remember it, and I'm one of those guys that I'll go, and if it's not right in front of me, I can forget something, and I look up and I was like, man, that's been like 3 weeks ago. When I was looking at my channel today, right before I logged on, I was like, holy moly, I have not posted since last month. That was not my intention. So, um, there was a sense of urgency today to get right back in it, because as I was walking and exercising and just thinking about things, this complacency, I started looking it up, and I was listening to a couple other guys on YouTube, and these are guys just like me. I mean, you've got a handful of viewers tops, but that doesn't mean that their content's not good. And I came across a lot of verses, and actually, a few weeks ago, I was in one of our Bible classes, and they were talking about how the Bible was like a book with hyper connectivity or something like that, where it is probably the most connected uh, written work in the world. And it was showing like how it was a diagram of how these things were connected. And I tell you, the thing was lit up like, and I don't remember how many um, connections they had in there. It's like where the word like something references another, and there's just this consistency. I want to say the number coming in my mind is like over 63,000 occurrences or something like that. Something crazy. But I started thinking, I was like, man. And so when I was listening to one of these videos, just not even an hour ago, this gentleman was talking about complacency, and he was in the book of Revelations, and he was talking about the particularly Revelations chapter 3 and the church in Laodicea. Forgive me if I'm not pronouncing that right. But they were rebuked for their lukewarmness. They were neither hot nor cold, and Christ threatens to spit them out of his mouth. They believe they are rich and in need of nothing, but are actually spiritually impoverished. So God or Jesus talks about being lukewarm. And if I'm quoting this correctly or paraphrasing this correctly, he says that, you can be hot, you can be cold or lukewarm, but being lukewarm is super offensive to him. He actually, to my knowledge, says that he'd rather you be just straight cold as opposed to lukewarm, because lukewarm is that the way that I interpret it is you know the truth, you know what you're supposed to do, yet you're living one foot in the world, one foot in with him. And it's offensive because he's just saying you're doing this and you're teetering on, you're trying to be clever, and God knows everything. He knows your heart, he knows your intentions, he knows what you're going to do, he knows the problems you're going to have before you have them, he has your solutions before you have the problem. I mean, you've probably heard it all, but at the end of the day, I mean, you've got to have the right intentions. I mean, a person can go to church every Sunday, they can tithe, they can say all the right things, they can do community service, they can do all these things, they can prophesy, and still not get into heaven because their heart's not right. They're doing things for the wrong reasons. You cannot get into heaven based on your works. You can only get into heaven by believing in Jesus' sacrifice for you. That's the only thing that's going to qualify you to get into heaven. And this striving to be what society and even the church, sometimes they can tell you that you should be this, you should be that. And I'm not saying that they don't have great suggestions or that you actually shouldn't be doing those things, but remember why you're doing it. For some of you that are a little further in your walk, that maybe you're talking, maybe you've discovered some of your gifts. Don't make your gifts your idols, because at the end of the day, you're worshiping the creation, not the creator. And God doesn't want that. He doesn't want you to have any idols. Going back to this passage in Revelations, the lukewarmness, they believe they are rich and in need of nothing. Sounds like United States of America. We live in we live better than most of the world. I mean, even the middle class, some of the lower class. I mean, a lot of parts of the world, they don't have shelter over their head. They don't have plumbing that works. They don't have vehicles, transportation like we do. They don't have access to healthcare. There's a lot of things that we have that they don't have. And it's really easy for us to start taking things for granted. And you start relying on yourself and your own strength as opposed to what God is providing for you. And you cannot be doing that, especially whenever you live in a country where your success is determined by certain things. How big is your house? What kind of car do you drive? How much money do you make? What is your status? It's really easy to get caught up in those things. Do not get caught up in those things. I'm not saying that it's not okay to work hard and to enjoy the fruits of your success, but remember who gave you the success in the first place. That success is not going to get you into heaven. You cannot take your cars, you cannot take your house, you cannot take your money into heaven. That stays here. So do not chase the almighty dollar for what? I mean, at the end of the day, God tells us we don't know the time or the hour when he's going to return. Furthermore, we don't know when the end of our lives are. I mean, our lives are ordered, at an appointed time. And so why would you just waste your life working yourself to death when God had so much more for you? Spend time with your family. Spend time with God. Do what he's telling you to do. And these are things that people, I feel like they just don't talk about these things. I mean, I'm sure there's people that do, but it doesn't really come across my, YouTube feeds or anything. Maybe I'm not searching the right spots. I don't know. But these are things that, I feel like people deal with. There were some other verses here that I was looking at. And Amos, the book of Amos, chapter 6, it says, Google summarizes it wonderfully, and I'm just going to read that. It says, this section condemns the wealthy and powerful who are complacent in their luxury while ignoring the plight of others and the impending judgment of God. They are described as living in comfort, enjoying fine things, making music, but are unconcerned with the ruin of Joseph, the northern kingdom of Israel. Again, you get caught up in the world, worldly things. God tells us in his word to build your treasures in heaven. In heaven, there's not, as he describes, like moth or vermin, that I believe he mentioned vermin, but that can eat your stuff. I mean, so a moth, if your treasure's in your clothes, a moth gets in your closet, it's going to eat everything. If you treasure your food, a rat or something is going to go in there and eat all your stuff up. In heaven, those things don't happen. There's no disease, there's no plight, there's no destruction of anything. It's just paradise. It's just, I can't even fathom it. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend to tell you like it's just that I know. I've never, I don't have a point of reference. I mean, the best thing I could give you is imagine your dream paradise, like whatever that is, your dream vacation or paradise on earth, like the most beautiful place you've ever seen, and just multiply that by thousands or more. I mean, if you can even fathom it, I can't personally do that. And so these are things, I was just thinking, it's like, even the last few weeks I've been thinking about, making plans with my money about certain things. It's like, oh, I want to go here on this trip, or I want to do this to my vehicle, or I want to buy this. And it's not like I don't really buy things for myself very often, but lately my mind has been on that kind of stuff. And I'm not saying that you can't buy stuff for yourself, but it's just kind of like, is that really what I should be focusing on right now? And, I probably not. So, I'm glad today that, God checked me and said, hey, I'm still here. You're still breathing. I still have stuff for you to do here. You need to get to it. And so I thank him for that, for correcting me. And there was some other things here that I was reading. I'm saying in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 8, verses 11 through 20, it talks about making sure that you don't forget God by failing to keep his commands, ordinances, and statutes. And it says, when you have eaten your fill and have built fine houses and live in them, and when your herds and flocks have multiplied, and your silver and gold is multiplied, and all that you have is multiplied, then do not exalt yourself, forgetting the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery, who led you through the great and terrible wilderness and an arid wasteland with poisonous snakes and scorpions. He made water flow for you from flint rock. He fed you in the wilderness with manna that your ancestors did not know, to humble you and to test you, and in the end to do you good. Do not say to yourself, my power and the might of my own hand have gotten me this wealth. But remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you the power to get wealth, so that he may confirm his covenant that he swore to your ancestors and he is doing today. If you do forget the Lord your God and follow other gods, lowercase g, to serve and worship them, I solemnly warn you today that you shall surely perish, like the nations that the Lord is destroying before you. So shall you perish, because you would not obey the voice of the Lord your God. I can't say it any better than that. I can't. You're not following him. Don't exalt yourself. Be humble. I mean, what is that verse? Proverbs 16:18. Pride goeth before destruction. Pride comes before the fall. Don't exalt yourself. And I'm not saying that you can't, be excited, be happy that you have things, but be thankful. Remember who gave those to you, who blessed you. And that was one thing that I've been doing as of late today, was just remembering the things that God has done, prayers he's answered over the last few weeks. He helped me with getting over something that I was, concerned about, worried about, fearful about even. And he showed me a few weeks back. I got through it. No problem. That voice of fear tried to come. No. I immersed myself in the Word and just kept reminding myself of what he said, and it couldn't take a hold of me. And if I was relying on my own strength, I would not be as calm as I was during that whole ordeal. So, here's another one. Deuteronomy 4:25-26. When you have had children and children's children and become complacent in the land, if you act corruptly by making an idol, lowercase I, in the form of anything, thus doing what is evil in the sight of the Lord your God, and provoke him to anger, I call heaven and earth to witness against you today that you will soon utterly perish from the land that you are crossing the Jordan to occupy. You will not live long on it, but will be utterly destroyed. Again, complacency, making idols of things, gods. People can worship money. You can really worship anything. I know people that they worship in different ways. They may not physically go to a place and say, I get on their knees and pray to these things, but their conduct, they're giving credence to some of these things, these addictions. I know people that idolize money. I know people that idolize alcohol. I know people that idolize sex, and other things, relationships, their children. And it's something that you need to be aware of and be cautious of, because anything that you put ahead of God is an idol. I'm not saying that you cannot love, your kids, or you it's okay to want to be successful, but is that replacing your God? You have to ask yourself that. What are you doing on a day-to-day basis? Are you being intentional with what you're doing? Are you being purposeful, like knowingly? Like, what are you doing, like, to build your relationship with God? Are you spending time with Him? Are you serving the community? Are you praying? Are you fasting? What are you doing? I mean, these are questions you have to ask yourself. It's super simple. Again, I don't have this profound kind of, I'm just going off of what the Bible says, how the Spirit's leading me, and talking to you about real experiences. It's a simple thing. So just constantly ask yourself. Here's another one. Deuteronomy 5:8. You shall not make for yourself an idol, lowercase I, whether in the form of anything that is in heaven above, or that is on the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. I mean, the Bible just connects. Just here we go. 2 Chronicles 26:15-16. In Jerusalem, he set up machines invented by skilled workers on the towers and the corners for shooting arrows and large stones, and his fame spread far, for he was marvelously helped until he became strong. And then the next section, pride and apostasy. But when he had become strong, he grew proud, to his destruction. For he acted unfaithfully toward the Lord his God, and entered the temple of the Lord to make an offering on the altar of incense. Now, back in the Old Testament, why that's important is that they didn't have Jesus yet. And Jesus hadn't paid the sin. So God, they had a lot of very unique laws, scapegoats and things like that. Animal sacrifices were being made because something had to atone, somebody or something had to atone for those sins that people were committing. So Jesus hadn't died yet. And so why that's important is there were accounts of people that did things that God told them not to do, and they were immediately struck down. You can't. There was a guy that, to my knowledge, when they were moving the Ark of the Covenant, things started falling over. He went to grab it, touched it, dead. So, but God had told them, certain things, and because there hadn't been an atonement for all this sin, judgment was swift for the most part. So it's the language and the tone in the Old Testament, like Deuteronomy and stuff. It's going to be very straightforward. It makes no bones about what he's doing. Here's another one, Deuteronomy 4:28. Therefore, there you will serve God, lowercase g, made by human hands, objects of wood and stone that neither see nor hear nor eat nor smell. Sounds kind of familiar, human-made idols, gods. Very interesting. It's these things. These are things that we need to be watching for. I like I said, I didn't have a lesson plan coming in here. It was what was on my spirit. I started looking at scriptures, looking on the computer, because I felt like that was on my spirit. And all these things started connecting. It didn't take long. So I guess the moral of the story is, try to be mindful of what you're doing. Try to be, sorry about my hair. It gets a little wild sometimes. Try to be mindful about what you're doing. Be purposeful. Have good intent, like what you're doing. Like, make sure that you are putting your focus on the right things. Don't become complacent in your walk. Don't start slipping, backsliding to the best of your ability. Try not to start, saying, "Oh, it's just this, it's just that." No, like stay on the race, run the race that God set for you. It's not always easy, but it is worth it. And make sure that you are not prioritizing anything over God. Try to keep Him at the forefront of your mind. Read your word, pray, fast, serve your community through the church. Like whatever it takes, whatever God is leading you to do, make sure that you're doing that. Commune with Him. Ask for the Holy Spirit to give you guidance. I mean, it should be a nonstop. Our goal should be to pursue Him so relentlessly that if He asked us to give away everything that we own, we should be able to do that. Now, that's easier said than done. And I'm not saying that if you're not doing that you're just not a good person or terrible. But Jesus gave everything that He had. He gave His life. He took a beating, crucifixion worse than we can fathom, and we should be. We're made in His image, and so we want to be like Him. We want to be like Jesus. When people look at us, they should see Him, and so we have to emanate His qualities, what He does. And the only way we know what that is if we get into our word. If you're not getting the word, you're not going to grow. It's just plain and simple. You should be trying to go to church, a Holy Spirit filled church. Getting with the community of people is something very great. I have benefited so much at the church that I attend, not only from the teachings, from the regular service, but also from the classes that I attend after the services with other people. These are lay people. These are not pastors. And we talk about, we go through lesson plans, but it's not read out of some workbook. It's like, somebody is talking about a theme in this book, and we go through verses, we go through questions. We sometimes we'll watch videos here and there, but we talk about real issues. And so I hope that this helps somebody, even if it's just one person. Great. But at the end of the day, stay strong, stay focused, do not stray. Make sure that you keep your eyes on God, because you don't know when He's coming back. You don't know when your time is going to be done here. And this is not to scare you. This is just to keep you ready. When He comes back, or whenever He decides, hey, your time here, is done, you fulfilled this, you want to be ready. And you will enter a paradise that you cannot fathom. You can read it in the Bible, and it talks about, it describes, the stones, the streets in heaven and things like that. But, it's hard to fathom that. And so just be encouraged. If you have slipped and fallen or stumbled, hey, you're still breathing. Take a moment, repent. Pray to God that He'll give you the strength, give you the guidance and direction. Pray for eyes to see, to see Him, to see what He's trying to do. Pray for a mind to discern what He's speaking to you. God is so lofty, and He has to really bring it down to our level to talk to us. Jesus talked in parables, and back then he was blowing minds. He's still blowing minds today. I read some of these parables, I'm like, man, this is deep. You can learn something a lot. You can read the same parable and then learn something new, years later. I'm just saying, it's a never-ending journey. Pray for a mind to be able to discern. what he's trying to tell you. And pray for ears to hear, that you can hear him when he's talking to you. That the Spirit, feeling the inklings, the leadings of the Spirit. It's like, go this way, go this way. You want him to guide what you're doing. So, sorry that didn't really have much of a structure, but sometimes that's the way it is. God doesn't always ask what we think, what we should be doing, or what we think we should be doing. He does what he wants to do. He's not a respecter of man. And so, at the end of the day, I'm here talking. This video may not get any views. Maybe it was just something for myself that God was just trying to do. But at the end of the day, like, I'm here to serve, and I'm walking it out. And for anybody out there, I'd love to discuss things. Maybe have a collaboration or something. We talk about something biblical on a video. Just go back and forth a little bit, some friendly dialogue. So let me know if there's anybody out there. If not, I pray that everybody will be well, and I hope that you guys have a good July, and I hope that I will be posting more, and pray everything goes well with you. So you guys have a good one, and good night.